Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Sector 5. I am your host, as always, Cody the Hangman Heinzman, and I'm here to talk more on The Rookie. I enjoyed doing the ranking video that I did, that I got the idea of talking about the seasons and kind of putting them in a list of, I don't want to say my least favorite to most favorite. That may be the apt way of saying it. Saying the least of anything with The Rookie implies that whatever's at the bottom is probably the worst, but that is not how I want it to be portrayed. I'm just going to say, I guess the best way of putting it is the one at the bottom of the list is the weakest for me. Not that it was bad or not watchable or anything. Just there has to be something at the bottom. So we're going to have a list of 1 through 7. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cody, there are 8 seasons of The Rookie, which you would be correct in saying that. But I do have a small caveat that I'm doing with my seasons. And the caveat is season 6. It had 10 episodes. So I'm dividing that in half. And they are added to season 5 and season 7. So that may give season 5 and 7 just a little bit more than other seasons. But with how stinted season 6 was, I felt it deserved getting its own caveat in this and getting a bit of a fair shake. And the best way of doing it, in my opinion, was adding it to season 5 and 7. And the other thing I plan on doing with this is, not only am I going through the list, I'm going to give what I definitively would say would be my favorite episode of the said season. So if I was to talk about season 6, my answer of what I think would be my favorite episode is episode 4, called Training Day. It's the episode where Thorson comes back after being on leave and going to therapy, and is finally cleared to go back to active duty. And I think I like that episode because he has to prove himself and try and overcome the train, as Tim calls it. And if it isn't obvious at this point, I am going to be talking openly with spoilers. I do not plan on putting a spoiler tag this time around. This video is going to be heavily spoilers. So when I talk about a season you might not see, you might just want to scrub ahead a little bit. Or maybe wait to watch this video until you've watched the entire all 8 seasons of The Rookie. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and try and get started with the list. Sorry to be moving you all around. I'm just trying to plug in my phone. Alright, sorry about that. I accidentally stopped the video. But I think it's best for us to get started. I also am planning on trying to fold some laundry while I do this video, so I hope y'all do not mind. But let's get started. So, bottom of the list. And if you watched my ranking video, this might not come as much of a surprise. But I think what has to go to the bottom of my list of rookie seasons is season 1. And it kind of sucks that it ends up going to the bottom when it had the pilot, and without, it succeeding, we would not have 7 more seasons of the show. But what puts it at the bottom, and I said it a lot in the ranking video, but I'll say it here as well in case you did not watch that, and maybe after this video, maybe go back and watch my ranking video if you like what you see here. What makes it the bottom of the list is the fact that a lot of what happens in season 1 is so irrelevant moving forward. The only, I think the most relevant thing is the fact that it's the start of Nolan and Lucy as rookies. Aside from that, you lose Captain Anderson, and she's never mentioned after season 1, except for one small mention in season 3. Then you have Nolan's old training officer, Bishop. She gets no more mention after season 1, except for the first episode of season 2. So I feel it's so unforgettable, and I don't want to say you don't have to watch it. I highly recommend you watch it because, it's the start of everything. But a lot of what happens just feels like it falls into irrelevance. You're not missing too much if you do not watch season 1. Now, after doing the rewatch, because I went and rewatched all 8 seasons to do this video, I will say it's a good nostalgia trip to go back and watch them. After rewatching it, it was still enjoyable to watch, to see how the foundation of the show started and how different the show was back then. So it is a good nostalgia trip. And what I would have to say my favorite episode of season 1, which is the one that I would go back and watch when I do go back and watch season 1 stuff, is episode 8, Time of Death, which is the episode where Nolan has his first kill. He kills his first suspect. And we go through him having to deal with it. And I think that was the best episode of season 1. And they showed everything perfectly. But unfortunately, given its irrelevance moving forward, it has to fall to the bottom of the list. And of course, this is all my opinion. You may love season 1 and think some of the later seasons' insanity deviates to what the show should be. Oh, excuse me, I'll be back in 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I needed to go get me something to wet my whistle. Moving on. The next episode on the list we're going to talk about is Season 3. And I feel it also has some of what Season 1 has, where the reason it's so low is it becomes irrelevant. The main character of Season 3, Jackson, ends up becoming irrelevant moving forward after his death. And I know it's not so much the show's fault on him becoming irrelevant. I know a lot of it has to happen with backstage and everything that happened with Jackson's actor. But it's unfortunate that a big character like him would fall so far into irrelevance. If I'm going to talk about my favorite episode, I'm going to talk about episode 5, Lockdown, which that is the episode where Nolan ends up getting kidnapped. Well, not kidnapped. What would be considered held hostage. That's what it is. He's held hostage by a man in the parking lot of the police station, trying to help his girlfriend not get caught. Caught's not the word I want, but it's the word that's coming to mind. If a better word comes to mind, I will tell you here in a second. Trying to keep his girlfriend hidden. That's the better way, because the person holding Nolan hostage, his girlfriend, ran away from her marriage and is now assuming a new identity. And her prints were pulled, and if they were to be ran, then her ex-husband would be able to find her. So the guy holding Nolan hostage, trying to help her get away with it and not get caught. I think it was a great premise for the show. I like Nolan doing the Morse code to help them figure out who was holding him hostage. And for the guy holding him hostage to be terminal and really have nothing to lose really adds the drama to the episode. So I highly suggest you watch that episode if you watch any episode in The Rookie. I want to give a honorable mention to episode 12, Braveheart, as well. And that is the episode where Nolan's son, heart condition, comes back, which is alluded to in season 2. And I don't know if it's alluded before that as well, but I remember it comes up in season 2. So, again, I feel it goes low because everything ends up being forgotten later on in seasons. You know, the only mention of Jackson we end up getting is when Lucy moves out in season 8. And it, unfortunately, probably is also the reason that Percy ends up, his dad, gets pushed away. We only see him 2 other times, I think, since season 3. I hope we get to see him more, but I doubt it. So next up, we're going to talk about season 5, which, if you remember earlier, also is consisting of season 6, episodes 1 through 5. And my favorite episode that I have to talk about on that one is episode 8, The Color. And which that episode is where three different suspects have a bomb strapped around their neck because they sent the bomber's sister for negotiations and got the sister killed. So he chooses to torture the victims, the ones that sent his sister, by strapping the bomb around their neck. And 1 bomb does go off and 2 get saved. It's a high drama episode. It shows a victim's kill, which was big. And all in all, was a good season. I just feel I has to hit this low on the list because the other ones just have a little bit more impact. I don't see anything really wrong with season 5, and the season 5 I think would have to be where the show starts to really pick up and get its footing. Which is a little weird to say whenever earlier seasons are higher on this list. But I just feel season 5 has to go where it's currently sitting. Let's talk about now season 8, which some people might be surprised where this is sitting. Why season 8 is kind of in the middle of everything. I really enjoyed season 8. And it has a little bit of nostalgia for me because when season 8 episode 1 came out, I was at MagFest. It's my favorite convention to go to. So being in the hotel waiting to experience one of my favorite things to go to every year while watching arguably one of my favorite shows of current, it really has some nostalgia glasses, rose tinted glasses to it. But what puts it so mid is the way Penn is treated during the season. It kind of upsets me, the treatment of Penn this season. where it just seems like he can't do right and can't prove himself. He just seems to be stuck in this middle ground. And I want to talk about him a little bit later on in the video. One of the other issues I have with season 8, which I've seen a few people agree with this sentiment, you have where Harper gets demoted. She goes back to patrol. We see her in 2 episodes in a patrol outfit, and then she's right back to the detective table like nothing happened. Like, I feel we went too quickly away from this demotion. Like, it was kind of forgettable that it even happened. One of the other issues I have with following on that same thought was we have Harper training Penn, and then he's back with Nolan. Like, what was the point of putting him with Harper just for him to go back to Nolan? I mean, originally when I was sitting and thinking about this issue is looking at it episode by episode by episode. It feels like each episode is supposed to be a day. After rewatching the season, I realized that's not so much the case. They show a little bit of what the time gap is, because in the last episode, it's what is supposed to be the 6-month for Officer Penn's punishment, where he was extended in the program. So that tells us from the episode that he gets demoted to the last episode is a 6-month gap. So, I guess my issue is, what is the gap between Harper getting demoted to her being back at the detective table like nothing happened? I just feel she should have been still a P2. She doesn't get demoted, but I feel she should be still wearing the patrol outfit. And I can understand why she wasn't for the Glasser stuff, because she was the head detective. I can understand why she was back in detective for that. But it just feels like she goes back to it too quickly. Like, how was it a punishment when it felt like it was just 2 days? Now, if we want to talk about my favorite episode, it has to be Burn for Love. And I know that one, it's episode 6, by the way. And I know there's some contention with it, because at the end of that episode, the Mid-Wilshire station blows up. There's a guy that likes setting fires, sets a bomb on the bottom of Lucy and Selena's patrol car. They get out and go in, and there's a massive explosion. And we see the fallout of that for one episode, and then it becomes irrelevant. But I can make a pass for that one just because watching that episode for the first time, it was kind of like, it kept feeling like the episode should end, and it just kept going. And I know in some cases that sounds like a negative, but it was engaging. It just seemed like, what's gonna happen next? You know? And I ended up rewatching that episode. So I have to say that was my favorite of the season. But I just have to put it where it's sitting because of the treatment of Penn, the nothingness of Nyla having to go back to patrol, really push it down. But all in all, the Everett storyline that it's building for season 9 was fantastic. It was a little weird, the divorce angle with Wade and Luna, which feels like it just kind of dwindles out. Like after Luna tells the doctor that she was having feelings for, that she's glad nothing ever really happened between the two of them, we don't see that doctor again. I don't know if we are ever going to see that doctor again, or if he is just gone. So, while season 8 seemed like it had a lot of nothingness to it, it was not a bad season. I quite enjoyed season 8. But I think that's enough talking about season 8. Let's start talking about the third. The one that comes in third place. And that's going to be season 7. Which again has the tail end of season 6 to it. And I feel I have to talk about the tail end of season 6. That starts the plot line of Tim and Lucy breaking up. And I feel that is such a good start to a season. Even though it is the second half of season 6. Having that being included to this really does, I think, push this up a little bit. Because we see the fallout and the rise for Tim and Lucy. And I feel it also has a little bit of nostalgia to it as well. Giving that season 7 was the first season that I started watching the videos, the episodes come out as they aired. My honorable mention for this, Wildfire, was the first episode that I watched as it came to Disney Plus. And started having to watch the show episodically instead of binging. So season 7 holds that with me. And what has to be my favorite episode that I do highly recommend you watching is episode 8, Speed. I love the plot line of Nolan and Juarez getting held hostage. Once again, Nolan being held hostage on a bus. And just all the events that happen with that. How it's Juarez's like first undercover, and just the absurdity of it, I guess. But it was what I definitely rewatch over and over and enjoy every time. The weird plot line with Monica does confuse me a little bit. So, where that comes in is there's a lady that you think is pregnant on this bus that got held hostage. And it comes to... we come to find out that she's just pretending that she's pregnant. But when she's talking with Monica, because she ended up stealing a government agency's database on this bus and gives it to Monica, which leads to her leverage in season 8. She says to the pretend pregnant lady that she's getting paid a lot of money to not ask what the person whose data that they mined does for a living, and that her silence is whenever she gets caught by the police, because the pregnant lady gets caught because they figure out that she's involved with this whole bombing situation, is that her silence is how she'll get compensated as for her child. So, and nothing comes of that. Like, does this lady already have a kid and you somehow have a ransom over him? Or what happened there? Or was pretend pregnant lady actually pregnant but not as far along as she was showing? And it just, I think that's the one thing that I wish we had more to that. Like, where's the follow-up to this? And we'll probably never know what the follow-up is, given the events of season 8. So moving on to my second favorite season of The Rookie. And you're probably going to be surprised it's number 2. Is season 2. And I'm sure everyone is surprised that I'm putting that as my second favorite, because that had what I'm going to say as my favorite episode, the infamous Day of Death episode, the one where Lucy Chen is kidnapped by the person that kidnapped her. I cannot think of his name right now. Caleb Wright. And nearly dies. And I have my reasoning that it's second, but it's probably better that it's better explained whenever I talk about the number one. It's definitely on the same tier as number one, but I just have to knock it down just a little bit, because I feel what I do have at number one is just the better season. And that is season 4. Now, whenever I thought about doing this and going through and doing the rewatch, I had some thoughts and everything that I did not write down, and maybe I should have. Why is season 4 my favorite? And I feel what has to be why it's so much my favorite is that it feels like it's the most relevant season. Everything jumps off at season 4. You have John and Bailey's relationship really getting started in season 4. And everything just feels like it's so relevant and still talked about in the later seasons that I just feel that it has to go at the number one slot. You have the beginning of Aaron Thorson in season 4, and he still shows up. He was not in season 7, but he did make some appearances in season 8, and I really hope that we still get to see him moving forward. And my favorite episode, I have to say, from season 4 is episode 7, Firefight. And that is the episode where, surprise, surprise, John Nolan gets kidnapped and has to fight off the person that has been setting fires and sets up the fire chief as the arsonist. And I just enjoy watching that quote-unquote fight scene. How John Nolan is able to, even though he is beaten down, is still able to persevere. And eventually, the one that kidnaps him gets the karmic justice of getting hit by a car, leading to his arrest, as that was his way to incapacitate his victims. Now that we've talked about the old seasons, let's talk about what I think is going to jump off for season 9. And maybe some questions that have popped into my head that I'm going to answer here. And one of the first things that I have to ask myself is, how are they going to treat the ending of season 8 going into season 9? The end of season 8, you had Tim and Lucy. Tim proposed to Lucy, and then they both got jabbed with a paralytic and a bag thrown over their head. And most likely going to lead to them being kidnapped somewhere. But I have to wonder, is the whole episode going to revolve around them saving Lucy and Tim? Or is it going to get kind of glossed over? And what I'm kind of meaning by getting glossed over is when season 5 was going into season 6, and you had Thorson getting shot, and then in the next episode we just see his recovery. Are they going to treat it like that, or are we going to have a full episode where we see how the team goes and saves them? I really hope it's like that. I don't want such a lackluster, there we go, that's the word, beginning to season 9. I want to see them coming up with a way to save Tim and Lucy. Now, do they kill either one of them off as well? And I'm not too sure. I was sitting and thinking about it, and I'm like, do we have one of them get killed off so close to Monica's? And most likely it's not going to happen. But the other thing that I have to wonder when it comes to like everything getting rushed off is the first episode going to be the wedding, or is that going to get pushed to maybe episode 4 or 5, or a season finale type thing? I don't know. And originally, I was thinking that the first episode was going to be Penn getting to graduate from the FTO program. And that still could be the case. At the end of season 8, Harper's like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Bradford about, shortening your extension, kind of like, hey, you've proven yourself. And then of course Tim gets kidnapped. So is at the end of the episode going to be Bradford looking and being like, hey Penn, welcome to being a P2? And I feel moving forward, once he does graduate, we're going to see more of Selena and Penn teaming up. It's still a little weird to me that we never got a plainclothes day for Officer Penn. It's not looking like we're going to get one. But we might. Given that he still has a little bit of time, they could dedicate maybe episode 2 or 3 to Penn's plainclothes day. I just have to see. Another question I had to think, it was, are we going to see any more of Seth? And it's not looking like the case. Maybe maybe we'll see him when Penn graduates and he's there to congratulate him with some kind of celebration, you know. But given that he is not going to be with the LAPD, I just see that story has come to a close. And the other thing that I am worried slightly about is they did announce that they are doing another spin-off series, The Rookie North. So, is season 9 going to be kind of like season 5? I think it was season 5, where it is a backdoor pilot for that series. And is that going to hamper the show? And how much of a too serious thing is going to happen? Like, I know there are a few things in the Rookie Feds that you kind of miss out on if you've never watched it. I've yet to take that plunge. I don't think I ever will take the plunge, since it seemed like it failed spectacularly. And it's probably not going to scratch the same itch that The Rookie does, which I feel some people can agree with, that a TV show is only as good as its characters. Like, if John was to leave The Rookie, I don't know if it would still be something I would want to watch. Take NCIS, for example. I loved NCIS. But take away Gibbs, Abby, Ducky, oh my gosh, what was his name? Denozo, Ziva, and it just kind of started to fall away with me. It definitely started to fall away whenever they got rid of Abby. Abby was my favorite. But this is not about NCIS. When it comes to The Rookie, I go to The Rookie for the character of John Nolan, Lucy Chen, Selena Juarez, Tim Bradford, Nyla Harper, Angela Lopez. I can do this. Wesley Evers, Miles Penn. I think I've made my point. Take those characters away and it just doesn't feel the same. Which is why do I think I'm going to watch The Rookie North? Maybe not at first. But we're definitely going to have either a backdoor pilot with The Rookie, or even The Rookie characters being cameos on the Rookie North. And if it is successful, then maybe I'll give it a try. Right now, I don't foresee it. Now, the next thing to talk about is, what do I think the documentary episodes are going to be like moving forward? And I definitely hope that if we do get a documentary episode in Season 9, it's way better than Season 8's. I think Season 8's documentary episode, I've been someone that doesn't put down the documentary episodes, because when they first started, it was something different and was not bad for the first 2. But the one with Abigail was alright. But the one in Season 8 with Rich Riley, Survive the Streets, just was a nothing episode. Like, if there is any episode in The Rookie that I could say you can skip that documentary episode. It just feels like it ends so abruptly as well. And I guess I should have talked about this a little bit more in the Season 8. But, dear Lord, that documentary episode just was nothing. So if they do another one in Season 9, hopefully it goes back to what it used to be. That's another thing to bring up. Are we going to see Abigail again in Season 9? And I kind of think we're not going to, with the way she seemed to be like, yeah, I'm going to start this Hulu series. So we probably won't see Abigail anymore. The Season 8 might have been the last season. Question I have as well is, where's Tamara at? Tamara made no appearance in Season 8. We haven't seen her since Season 7, where she ends her engagement with Seth. So, do we see Tamara in Season 9? And I kind of hope we do, because she is another one of those enjoyable characters in the show, and her relationship with Lucy is great to explore. We're most likely, if anything, going to see her at the wedding with Tim. Hopefully. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what's to come with Season 9. I do have my worries with it as well. Hopefully, it's not as time confusing as Season 8. And what I mean by that is kind of what I harped to earlier, where you have Nyla, she got demoted. Oh, now she's back in the detective, like nothing happened. So hopefully they sway away from that a little bit, as that really hampered season 8. Not that the season 8 was bad, it's just why did things happen and just kind of get forgotten? But I think I've rambled on enough. I'm running out of different questions I have. I hope y'all enjoyed. If there's any questions that you might have for the upcoming season 9, put them in the comment section below, and I will happily read it over and give my thoughts. But as always, I'm Cody the Hangman Heinzman. Hope y'all enjoyed. And that's just how it is.